Thanks again for coming to Using Chatbots to Improve the Customer Experience. I'm Katie. I'm the Inbound Marketing Manager at Madison Marketing Group. I've been a HubSpot user personally since 2013, and Madison Marketing Group has been a HubSpot partner since the partner program began. So we'll walk through a quick agenda for today. First, going to cover what's a chatbot and why do I need one. We'll go through a setup example in HubSpot. We'll talk through chatbot best practices, and then talk about reporting and KPIs. First up, what's a bot and why do I need one? Well, by definition, a chatbot is a computer program designed to simulate conversation with human users, especially over the internet. And there's two basic types of chatbots that exist today. AI can simulate a live conversation using machine learning to understand a human's input and use that to give a response. And a rule-based chatbot operates using predefined rules. Rule-based chatbots aren't able to handle unexpected inputs, but are great for situations where we can guide the conversation. HubSpot's chatbot tool is a rule-based chatbot. So why might you want a chatbot? Simple answer, everybody's doing it. Back in 2018, Gartner predicted that by 2020, 85% of customer interactions would be managed without a human. And I don't have an updated stat here, but thinking about my own online activities, I'd say this is fairly accurate. And why might you want to create a chatbot for your company? Here's a few reasons, but the simple answer is the potential to save time and money while providing users with a positive experience with your company. If your bot can handle simple and routine questions, that frees up time for your sales and support staff. But before you go all in on chatbots, you'll want to answer a few questions to make sure the chatbot will help you and help your website visitors. So you want to ask yourself the following 4 questions. Is human bandwidth a constraint? Are your sales and support staff spending time answering the same simple questions again and again rather than spending time on more complicated things? Do you need to collect data or report on conversations? A chatbot can save a record of what exactly was said rather than relying on human memory or interpretation. Is the cost of making a mistake low? Just like humans, bots aren't perfect. And do your customers need standardized answers? This goes back to your human staff fielding the same questions. If the answer is always the same, then it's probably safe to use a bot to answer those questions. So as chat has become more common, people have grown to expect certain behavior and capabilities when interacting with a bot. A rule-based chatbot has to follow the predefined rules, which means before setting up your bot, you'll want to take a look at the big picture of what you want it to do, and then go on to define how it should behave. So a few big picture use cases for bots are listed here. If you want to surface marketing collateral, that means point users to where you keep your resources, capture leads, book meetings, or create customer service tickets. Let's take a look at an example. So just like any HubSpot-related initiative, setting up a chatbot starts with a goal. So this is a real-life Madison Marketing Group example of a chatbot that we've worked on. Our goal here is to provide an additional option for visitors to find what they're looking for or get in touch with us. We're also looking to simplify our software, so we need a chatbot that will replace Drift. Once you've decided on a chatbot's purpose and goal, you need to decide where on your website to put it and who will see it. In this case, we want it to appear to all visitors on all pages. And I'll jump over to HubSpot's tool in a minute, but wanted to show the actions that are available within the tool. They're all here on this slide, and just like the workflow tool in HubSpot or the automations, you're able to plug in from a predefined list of actions. Unfortunately, HubSpot's chat tool isn't as easy to set up visually as HubSpot's workflow tool. So I recommend planning out the actions ahead of time outside of HubSpot. You can do just kind of a simple drawing or, get it somewhere online like this, but this helps simplify the build process once you are inside the tool. All right, and with that, we can jump into the tool. To get started with your chatbot, you'll want to head over to Conversations and Chat Flows. And once you're on that page, you'll click Create Chat Flow. You'll be asked if you want to create a chat for your website or Facebook Messenger. And for today's presentation, we'll be focusing on the website. And next, you can choose if you want to do live chat, which we will not cover today, or HubSpot has some templates that you can choose from, or you can start from scratch. So since we're just doing the quick demo today, we'll choose a template, choose next. Then you'll want to select the inbox. For most cases, this is going to be your conversations inbox. That's what we have set up here. And then you'll choose your language, choosing English, and we'll hit create. So this is the lead qualification chatbot. It's going to start with a basic question, give you some options about what you can choose, and then start collecting information. So this is basically how all of the chat function is going to work and be set up. But you have the option to click into any one of these questions or boxes and edit. You can edit the message here. You can edit your replies or leave this to be an open answer. That you would click here, disable open responses if you did not want people to be able to do free response. And then you can save it to a HubSpot property. In some cases, you'll want to do that if you're collecting contact information. If it's more just helping someone select the path that they go down, like this, learn about products, pricing, or something else, you don't have a default property for that. If it's important to collect information on that, you may want to create a property, but you don't have to. The next thing you'll want to set up is what happens when someone selects any of these answers. So right now we can see that in all cases, depending on what they select, they would be asked how many employees work at their company. But you can customize that if you click here. Depending on which action they take, you can either jump them down to an existing option within the chat, or you can create a new one. So if they select something else, maybe we want to collect information on that. We want to ask them a custom question. What would you like information about? And then here, that's the question. And we would let them do a free response on that one. And then you'll just kind of click through and save. And HubSpot's chat tool is kind of a challenge to understand the branching. If this is your first or second or third time setting up a chat flow. So I always recommend previewing the actions to make sure that what you expect to happen is going to happen. So let's say you wanted to see what happens when you click something else. It adds that question that we added, and that's as far as we got in this example. So you can go through and preview as many times as you need. You don't have to wait until you have everything set up to do that, but it is definitely something that is helpful in your setup process. The other thing, same with every tool within HubSpot, you can name your chat flow. This is a step that I always tend to miss across all of the tools. So you don't want to forget that. So once you're happy with the flow of the chat, you have your options up here at the top. You want to decide who you want to target. So basically here you can decide where you want to put it and who you want to show this to. So you can select your website URL is any specific page. You can add exclusion rules. You can show it on just a select number of pages. You can build these out in kind of any way you want. The behavior that you can show the chat to or decide not to show the chat to. You can use it to known contacts using segmented lists. So if you have a more of like a support type bot, you could choose to show that to contacts who are on your customer list. Or you can use just some basic analytic information that is kind of collected during a user's session. So once you have your targeting criteria set, you'll be able to update some of the display options. So this is going to affect what your chatbot or your little guy down there is going to look like. You can choose the image here. You can change that to your company logo or whatever you want. You can change it, the name here, and then you can change the display. So you have the option here to make it appear differently on desktop and mobile. And the reason for that is because obviously mobile screens are smaller. If you were to show the welcome message on mobile, I don't even think that's an option, but that would basically take up the entire screen. So you kind of want to figure out what works with your persona, how they're expecting to interact with the chat, how prominent you want it to be, basically. And then you can add the information about when your chat will appear. So if people are trying to leave the site, do you want the chat bot to pop up then? Do you want it to appear after a certain number of time? Or, when they've scrolled down a percentage of the page? And you can select all of them. It's totally fine. Finally, there are some additional options. You get to choose the length of time between messages. So you can do a slight delay here. That just makes it feel more like a natural conversation where the bot is considering the response that you've given. The session timeout is how long the chat would be hidden for someone who's chatted with you previously. So, you can adjust it there. Generic error message, like we said, bots aren't perfect. Sometimes they have errors. This is the message that gets displayed if there's an issue. English, we selected that language. And availability is when you want your chat to be displayed on the website. So we have only during business hours here. You can have it as that and set your business hours, or you can have it always on. If it's strictly a chat bot and there's no human interaction, I would tend to say that you could choose that it's always on. When you want to select business hours is more for if this chat eventually ends up getting turned over to a human that may be doing live chat. So that setting is totally up to you. If your company is using GDPR settings within HubSpot, then you have these toggles here to turn it on. And then if you want to collect feedback down here, you can. If you're using marketing contacts versus non-marketing contacts and you want people who chat with your chatbot to be set as a marketing contact, you can toggle that on as well. The other thing that you want to do is make sure that you save all of your changes after you make them. So we'll make a change, make sure that you save it, And from there, you're ready to turn it on. All right. Now that we've covered kind of what the tool can do, we'll go over a couple best practices when it comes to using the chatbots. So number one, don't want to pretend to be human. If you're using a bot, you're really not going to fool anyone, especially if you are not really accepting custom answers. In some cases, it would be considered illegal to pretend to be a human if you're a bot. So I always like to make it pretty clear that it is a bot that is chatting. So you can do that here in the heading. You can do that using your kind of avatar. I know that robot image there is kind of cartoony, but if you can find something similar to reinforce that it's not a live person, that is kind of always helpful in managing expectations. Number two, create an error message. So this is HubSpot's generic error message. If someone's trying to chat with you and they get an error that says, please try sending your message again shortly, that's got to be kind of frustrating for them. So, because errors can happen for any number of reasons, I think kind of leaving them stranded with this message is not a best practice. So I always like to add an additional way to get in touch. So, let them know that the chat is unavailable for, technical difficulties. Invite them to reach out via email or phone, or include a link to your contact page. I think those are all better options than just kind of saying, please try again. Number three, you want to always add value before you extract value. So that basically means that you want to make sure that you're able to help the visitor before you start asking them for all of their contact information. So that might look like showing them the available chat paths before asking for their email or name so they can decide if they want to engage. That I think also helps save your team members time, because then they don't have to go chasing after every lead that comes through chat. That, after they submitted their email, they decided that the chat wasn't for them. They don't actually need any personal assistance. So I think just making it clear what the chat is there for, what it can do, what someone can expect to get out of it before you're asking them to provide their information is something that is appreciated from the user perspective. Number four, with a bot specifically, you want to use predefined answers whenever you can. And because HubSpot uses rule-based chat, it's not really equipped to handle unexpected answers. So a lot of times when we include these open-ended answers, what can happen is someone types in a really, really long answer, and that causes an error. That's just an example, but leading people down the path by having them select their answers and providing a limited free input is more likely to make sure that your bot is not going to error. And you can also more easily test those paths, making sure that the answer that someone gives results in the next logical step. If they provide some sort of open answer and you send them down a path that does not necessarily make sense, that's kind of a poor experience as well. So once your chatbot is up and running, you probably want to know how it's doing. So there's three basic reporting metrics you want to keep tabs on. Engagement rate is the amount of people who started a chat relative to the number of people who visited your pages that have chat on it. So this gets to the answer of whether people are actually using the chat. The completion rate is the number of people that finished the chat all the way to the end relative to the number of people who started chatting. So if people are abandoning their chat, not following their chosen path to the end, that would be reflected here. And then the error rate is the number of times your bot errored relative to the number of chats that were started. And to see that data within HubSpot, all you have to do is hover over any published chat and click on details. And that'll bring up the report where you can see how many people have started, finished, or abandoned your chat in the top row. Kind of up here. And the middle and bottom charts can help you see where people might be falling off and kind of inform any adjustments you might want to make to your bot. So FAQs. Typically we get asked who can set up chatbots, and the answer to that is anyone with admin access within HubSpot or any Marketing Hub subscription level. What happens after a chat is finished? Generally, it gets delivered to whatever inbox you select as a setup. And with paid Sales Hub plans, conversations can be routed to specific team members or teams. That is not a possibility if you don't have a paid Sales Hub, but there are some workarounds to get the chat delivered to someone specific. You can turn on new unassigned chat conversation notifications under the general settings, and then just set a process outside of HubSpot to ensure that someone takes a look at those notifications and replies. The other thing you can do is take a look at the conversation inbox. Someone can check in there frequently. New chat conversations show up there, and then they can be assigned there, which would then trigger notifications if you have your notifications set up so that you're assigned when a new chat is assigned to you. How can I view a transcript of the conversation? So again, within the conversations inbox, you can email the chat transcript. That's kind of a manual process. But if your chat is simple and doesn't have complicated branching, you could send it automatically using a workflow. And the process to set that up kind of looks like this. So you'd create your chatbot, and you want to map all of the answers to contact properties. Next, you create a workflow with manual enrollment, and the action that happens in that workflow would be to send an internal email, and then you build the email with the chat prompts and pull in the properties that get filled in via chat. Finally, go back to the end of your chatbot and then choose to enroll as the final step. You want to enroll the contact in the newly created workflow, and that'll kind of automatically kick off those notifications with the kind of simulated chat transcript. All right, and that is kind of all for today, short and sweet. I see that John has a question. Would you recommend having an option to go back in chat flows or finish each path and then start from scratch? It really depends on your chat. So if it's going to be something simple, I think maybe just let them finish out. If it's going to be something that is really heavy with branching logic, I would let them kind of circle back. You can do that by having, if they select go back, having that next action be the previous action. So it's pretty simple to do. I would do that, draw that out, on your piece of paper or in your, mapping software that you're using. Don't try and achieve that on the fly as you're setting it up, just because it can get kind of complicated. And then the next question, how would you create a chat flow strategy if you had more than 5 chat flows across different pages in your website? So that's kind of a bigger picture question. It really depends on the goals of those bots themselves. So For example, I would say, you want to take a look at what you want each bot to achieve, and then where you want to put it on your site based on that. So let's say you have a pricing page on your site, and you want to have a bot on that page. So the natural kind of progression for that bot might be to ask if someone had any other questions, if they wanted to talk to a sales rep about pricing specifically, and that would be the bot that I'd put on that page. If you have a resources page that, you have a wealth of downloadable case studies and white papers, and you have a blog, if you've been at inbound marketing for a while, you know that you can, have quite a library that's living on your site, that if it's not as well organized as it should be, it can be kind of a daunting mess for people to navigate. So one thing that you could do with a chatbot is, on your resources page, ask what types of information people are looking for. Likely you're providing information that falls in a couple bigger buckets, and you can, ask them, do you want information on, service one? Do you want information on service two? Are you looking for case studies? That sort of thing. So it's all gonna kind of depend on what you have within your website, what your service offerings are, who your personas are that you're targeting, and that sort of thing. John or anyone else on the call today, if you have any specific questions or want to talk through this further about your specific situation, feel free to reach out to support@madisonmarketing.com. I am happy to, set up a call or, talk through any specifics at any point. So that ends our presentation today. I want to say thanks again to everybody for attending. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and we will get this recording out to you guys within the next day or two. Thanks, and take care.